how are you? Welcome. Is it snowing where you guys are? We have a ton of snow out there. I've just been watching it out my window all morning, all afternoon. I guess it is 4 o'clock. Hey, yes, Kara, Pittsburgh, yep, we're getting a lot of it. Where's everybody else coming from? Oh, Texas. Okay, yeah, you guys have sunshine. Awesome. Oh, 61 degrees. That sounds great. Lots of snow in Sweden. Great. Well, thank you guys for joining me today on this little kind of impromptu Periscope. I was working actually, oh, Georgia, Colorado. Awesome. Everyone's from everywhere. Great, great. Welcome. Oh, awesome. Everyone from everywhere. Okay. So I was working on a blog post actually about some different types of chalk that I use pretty much almost every day. When I post something to Instagram, people are asking, what brand of chalk is that? What do you use? And I get a lot of questions. So I wanted to really create something for you guys, just of the brands that I love, the chalk that I use. And then I thought, well, why not pop on here and talk about it, do some live demonstrations, which we'll get to, of just some of my favorite brands and what I use on a regular basis. And I'm hoping that it helps you with your chalking and knowing the different situations to use different types of chalk, because some are definitely more suited for certain things. So great, I'm so glad. Nikki, I'm so glad you love your chalk lettering book. We're gonna talk a little bit about that too, because I do recommend a certain type of chalk in the book. So what we'll do to get started, I will do a quick run through of what I wanted to talk about, and then I'm gonna flip the camera around. Hopefully I won't disturb my setup here when I do that. And we'll do some live demos. So, oh, that's so sweet, you guys. I'm so glad you're loving chalk lettering and having fun with it. That means so much to me. Okay, so I'm gonna start with the chalk that I absolutely love and use the most. And this is the chalk that I recommend in the Complete Book of Chalk Lettering. In fact, every project in the Complete Book of Chalk Lettering, I use this chalk. And that is Crayola AntiDust. So if you've never used it before, you might be thinking, oh, anti-dust, that means no dust, and it certainly does not. This chalk produces a ton of dust, and that's exactly why I love it. So this is what a piece looks like. I sharpen it. I have a pencil sharpener, so you can sharpen this type of chalk. It actually, it sounds kind of weird, but it has a weight to it. So if you've used just a normal regular chalk, or even just Crayola regular chalk, it feels just very light. This will feel almost like plaster or something. It's heavier, but it has a really nice vibrancy to it. You can sharpen it, and I love this chalk. It can create the best shadow techniques, and I love that about it. And for you guys that have followed my work for a while or follow me on Instagram, you know I love dust. I mean, chalkboard art it's dusty, and that's so fun about it because it looks so rustic and pretty and charming when you have that dust. And so thanks for all the hearts. I guess a lot of people liking, you know, the real dusty thing, and that's me. And all of my prints and cards, I will use the real chalk. But there are some drawbacks to it, of course. You will be covered in chalk dust. I'm covered in it all the time. And sometimes you need something with a little bit more staying power, a little bit more permanency. This will definitely bump very, very easily. So it's not great to use all the time, and some people have talked to me about some asthma issues and some respiratory issues. Yeah, do you wear a mask? I don't. It really hasn't bothered me, and it's not necessarily that it's dust all through the air like a big dusty cloud. That's not necessarily what happens. It's just all over your hands, and it's very drying. I have really dry hands. And so there are just some other options for those that might not really be interested in all the dustiness all the time. So the next brand I want to talk about, I just learned about this recently, and I fell in love with it. I think it's awesome, and it's called Butter Sticks, and the company that makes it is called Jack Bird. Can hopefully get the name on here. So Butter Sticks, essentially, I'm calling it a chalk crayon because when you feel it, it feels almost rubbery and waxy like a crayon. But what is awesome about this product is it sharpens just like a normal piece of chalk. And because of the waxiness, it will still give a really nice chalk texture, like as if you're using the real thing, but it will not rub off as easily, and it truly is zero dust. So the Crayola AntiDust, still a lot of dust. Butter Sticks, when they say it's a zero dust chalk, they really mean it. It is zero dust, it's non-toxic, and it works really well. And so when I show the demonstration, you'll really get to see the texture that it creates, and I've been recommending it to everybody because you still get a really nice texture from it. And yes, you can erase the butter stick. So if you try to erase it with an eraser or even a dry cloth, it's not going to come off. It's definitely more of a wet erase product. But it's a nice alternative, and if you don't want all of that dust around, if you don't want to be cleaning up dust all the time, it's really nice. So we'll see that in a second. So the third product would be chalk ink markers. And the residue on the butter sticks, it does not, when you wipe it clean, I've found that it does not leave a residue, but it does feel waxy when you use it. So chalk ink markers, that's next. And so I'm kind of progressing from regular chalk where you can smudge and it's dusty and it has the texture, down to butter sticks. Still a little bit of the texture, but it won't smudge nearly as much. You won't be able to get a lot of the shadowy techniques, but it still has texture. Chalk ink markers are going to be that really bold, solid, vibrant look. And sometimes that's totally appropriate and exactly what you want. And I had the pleasure of going to Chalk Ink headquarters in Austin. Emily is Lily and Val's marketing communication manager. We both went down and we were able to learn more about these markers. And I had no idea some of the ways that they can be used even beyond a chalkboard, which I'm going to show you a little demo of that. I'm so excited about it. It's so cool. And the other thing that's really nice about the chalk ink markers is the vibrancy. So I will be honest that I'm not in love with colored chalk colors. So like Crayola's colored chalk, it's okay. I don't really use it. I stick with the white, and then I will add color in digitally when I produce the products. But chalk ink markers, I have just a handful of some of these colors here, and they're just really vibrant, or they have more muted colors and pinks, so they're really great, and like I said, on a vast array of products. So the thing to keep in mind though with the chalk ink markers is that it will give you really nice permanency, but they're not suitable for every surface, which is why I really love having these options to play with, because the chalk ink markers will only be suitable for a non-porous surface. And if you try to use them on a porous surface, so by porous, I love making my own chalkboards, and I'll use like an MDF board, and I'll put chalkboard paint on that, that will not accept the chalk ink markers very well. It will leave a shadow, it won't erase very well. Where they work best is when you have a non-porous surface like glass or metal or plastic or chalkboard paper, like that vinyl-y kind of material. Yeah, to add color on the prints that I have from the shop, I use Photoshop, and we'll add it in that way. And I also use Rust-Oleum chalkboard spray paint when I create the chalkboards. But I do know that Chalk Ink is in the process of coming out with a brand of their own chalkboard paint, and it will make any surface virtually a non-porous surface so that chalk ink markers can be used on more surfaces. So that's a rundown. Oh, the one other product that I want to mention that I do use from time to time is a white charcoal pencil. And a white charcoal pencil is awesome for getting details, for getting really nice, crisp shadow lines on your letters. I combine it just with regular chalk sometimes if I need that really fine pencil tip. It really comes in handy for that. But the charcoal pencil will not erase with a regular eraser. You definitely have to get a damp cloth to get the white charcoal pencil out. But it's also it's another good tool to have in your arsenal to use and determine when to use for different situations. So thank you guys so much for the hearts. I hope that this is helpful so far, and I'm excited to show you guys some things in action. Yes, so I have used, so let me do say, as far as the colored chalk, that was a good question. I have used colored chalk in the past. I definitely have. And there are colored chalk that can look pretty in different situations for sure. I have a couple pieces on Instagram, even like a time lapse that I did for fall that had some really nice vibrant leaves, and I used real colored chalk for that. But I haven't necessarily found that brand that I really love as much as I love these things. So I tend to just go for the white because I just really like that texture. So I hope that helps. Does anybody have any other questions before I flip the phone over and we can play around and I can show you guys some of these things in action? Okay, thank you again for the hearts, guys. It means so much. So hopefully I can flip this and I don't knock the whole thing over. Okay. All right, I saw kind of that last minute question about making chalkboards, and I just get boards, MDF boards that I have cut at Lowe's or Home Depot, and I just spray them with spray paint. But you can really put chalkboard paint on anything, on virtually any surface, so that makes it really fun. I would just experiment with different things. I've even had an old frame with glass in it, and I didn't love it anymore, so I've painted the glass with chalkboard paint too. So you can do a lot of different things that way. Okay, so let's start with the Crayola AntiDust chalk. And I have a couple sticks that are sharpened here. I have an electric sharpener that I use for that. And so if you're really getting into doing a lot of chalk art, I do recommend doing that. But a regular handheld sharpener will work fine. So I always have a paper plate. It's nothing fancy, but it works to catch all the dust when you sharpen. So just a normal handheld, and you can just sharpen the chalk right up. But you can see it definitely produces all that dust. So you'll see a difference when we use the butter sticks too. So when you're using the AntiDust chalk, you can get it can vary from really vibrant lines to really light lines. So when you use a lot of pressure, you can see how nice and vibrant that line is. Or I can use a light pressure and get more of a shadowed effect there and rub it out with my finger. really guys, when you're doing chalk art, your fingers are some of the best tools that you can use for just smudging and getting things to look dimensional. So I love AntiDust chalk, like I said, because it will look very vibrant when I want it to look vibrant, but then it will look muted when I want it to look muted. And I can just rub out the parts that I want to be a little shaded, go back in, layer it up. So this is, of course, just a really quick example, but you can see the texture that you get. So this is a piece that I've actually just finished, and I haven't even put it in the shop yet. So this is truly a first peek at one of the pieces. I created it all with the AntiDust chalk, and you can see where I get the texture in the flowers. So I just used my finger, and you can just blot out the parts that you need to be shaded, parts that you want to be vibrant, you can just go back over. So that's really, really why I love this chalk. You can see all the texture in the leaves. So really when you want something to be nice and textured and have that true rustic chalkboard look, I think that you can't beat Crayola AntiDust. You can even see here in the lettering in U where I drew it to be very, very vibrant, but then I went back in and just added that little bit of texture into the letters that just really make it look like a little extra special something. And like I said, the chalk projects rather in the book are all using this chalk. So let's move on then to butter sticks. So I'm trying to look at some of your questions here as we're going. Okay, so buying chalk online. I buy all of my chalk online. You can buy Crayola AntiDust on Amazon, and oh, the name of my electric sharpener, you know what? I don't know. Let's see here. It looks like it's a Boss Stitch electric sharpener. Oh, if I make up fonts. Thanks guys for letting me know the questions. So yeah, so I make up the fonts. When I first got started, I definitely looked at some computer generated fonts because I wanted to make sure that I was getting the right shape. But from then, I really developed my own style based on that. And once you get the shape down, then the sky's really the limit of how you manipulate that. And so, yeah, the Complete Book of Chalk Lettering talks a lot about that, about really how to take the basic shape of a letter and different styles and then manipulate them and turn them into your own and a style of your own. So that's a really great question. So moving on to the butter sticks, and you'll really be able to see the difference here. Oh, by the way, I didn't mention this. So I have this chalkboard, and this is one of the ones that I made out of the MDF board that I was talking about. But I also have the Complete Book of Chalk Lettering opened here, and it has built-in chalkboards right into the book for those that don't have it. So this is the book. And when you open it up, there are two full chalkboards here, and then there's also a chalkboard in the front with practice guides. So I am going to be demonstrating also on the chalk lettering book. So that's probably one of my favorite parts about the whole book, is that there's chalkboards in here. I think that's so cool. It's actually a chalkboard paper that's sort of mounted on there. So let's move to butter sticks, and sharpening it is really where you're going to see that difference and that waxiness versus the chalk, which just gave us all of that dust. So back to the sharpener. This is butter sticks. I'm going to try to hold it up closely so you can see how that is sharpening. And in seeing that, you can kind of hopefully tell the texture that you're getting there, which is more like sharpening a crayon, but it actually goes to just a really nice tip And it's great because you have to be very careful when you're sharpening Crayola AntiDust chalk because it will break. Like I said, it kind of has that plastery feel to it. So, oh, like a chubby lipstick. Yeah, it's a little bit tougher than a lipstick, I would say, but I can, almost like a lip crayon or a lip pencil. It has sort of that waxiness, but it still stays together. But it won't break as easy when you sharpen it either, and that makes it really nice. So I'm going to use this one on the chalk lettering book. And just to give you guys, so let's do hello. So it's breaking a little bit for me, but that's okay because you can see the texture that it's creating. Just blow some of that off. So you can really use this as you would use just a regular piece of chalk. Go back over, thicken your downstrokes, and you can see that it has still that really nice chalk texture. The edges are rough. You can of course go back over and sharpen them a bit, but for that just really authentic chalkboard look, it's great. So now that we have our word, so if you go back and you try to smudge it, now if I lightly touch this chalk, it's gonna wipe away. So I can start to even just erase it with my finger. That is how temporary the AntiDust is. So if I just start wiping, hopefully you can hear that and see, it is hardly smudging. I still get a really, really nice texture. It looks authentic like chalk, but I mean, I am just full out wiping that and it's not budging. And I think that is awesome. To get that texture and get the staying power is really nice. So I think somebody asked about the butter sticks, if they will erase. And the answer is yes. You just need a little bit of a damp cloth. And a note about using the chalk lettering book too, and you don't really need it to be super wet, so you don't want to damage it, but just a nice damp cloth, and that will completely wipe away. Oh, my camera's starting to shake. So there you go. That is butter sticks. How awesome is that? I really like that. Now, again, you're not gonna get the same shadowy techniques as you'll be able to do, again, with the AntiDust, but for the next best thing, whenever you still want that chalky texture, I definitely recommend that. Okay, so then the third thing would be the chalk ink markers. Like I said, these are going to be the most vibrant. Oh, someone talked about showing the seasoning. So yes, let me do that quickly too. Seasoning is really just a matter of rubbing the side of a piece of chalk, just a regular piece of chalk AntiDust, and you rub it over the entire surface of the chalkboard when it hasn't been used before. And then you just wipe it off. And that ensures that the chalk won't become permanent on that surface and burn into that fresh chalkboard surface. So you definitely should season your chalkboards and season the chalkboards in the book. So yes, you can wipe it off with a wet towel or you can wipe it off with a dry towel. It really comes in it comes down to what you like best. If you want to start with that purely clean chalkboard surface where all the dust has been stripped away, or if you want to start with sort of a dusty surface and have it look a little bit more rustic. So that's really some of the fun of playing around with chalk art, is that you can manipulate the background in addition to manipulating the lettering that you're putting on there, because you can make it dustier or cleaner. And I think with all of these examples too, it really is a matter of your preference in that way. If you like just that true chalky, dusty texture, then you'll want to use the real thing. If you want sort of the next best thing, but you need it to be able to hold up to a little bit of smudging, or if you're doing a sign for an event, butter sticks is definitely the way to go. And then the chalk ink marker, which I want to talk about next, will be that truly vibrant, look where it will be solid, and that's why a lot of the colors will look really beautiful and vibrant. So I mentioned earlier, but I just want to reiterate the importance of using a non-porous surface when you're using chalk ink markers. And you don't want to end up ruining your chalkboards, so make sure that it's non-porous. I have these really cute little vinyl chalkboard tags here. You can see how it's shiny and it's vinyl, so definitely non-porous. The pages in the Complete Book of Chalk Lettering, the chalkboard paper, I have used chalk ink markers on them without a problem. It's a similar paper material as opposed to using wood or something that can soak in. But I wouldn't necessarily recommend practicing with chalk ink markers on the Complete Book of Chalk Lettering, just because you definitely want to use them when you want more of that permanency. They're not going to budge. They're wet erase, and so projects that are suited for them, I wouldn't necessarily be using them in the book, but you can. So there's always that option. So on this tag, we'll just write my name. So you can see the vibrancy here. You can go back over, make them even a little bit darker and more solid. And as it's wet, you can even use, you can even combine the colors, some of the really vibrant colors. So let me grab another color here. Also guys, chalk ink markers come in gold, and I am obsessed with gold. Any other gold fans? I think that's so fun that you can use these gold markers and erase them. And it's just really this metallic that's beautiful. And they have all different colors and metallics too. Really nice. And here's another. See the really pretty vibrancy of the pink. So that is the effect that you will get with the chalk ink markers, which is still a beautiful, beautiful effect. It really all comes down to what you're going for. If you're going for more rustic or a little bit more solid like this, it really just depends. And something that I like to do, let me pop over and look at the questions here. Okay, so the chalk ink markers coming in various sizes and widths. Oh, they definitely do. Actually, have a bunch on my desk here. Here's a sort of, this is their standard size. Look at this really big, nice, chunky size for big signs. And then they also even have a smaller size. So there's lots to choose from. They're really fun to work with. Like I said, I was able to do a lot of crafting and lettering with chalk ink markers, and they were great. Another tip that you can use for doing projects with chalk ink is, who says that you can't combine things? So if you have a project that requires that permanency and you're using chalk ink markers and you want some parts to be vibrant, but yet you still want sort of a dusty texture, there's nothing wrong with going back in and adding some real chalk. So let me just do this. I know I just said about not using the markers on the book, but I have not had problem with that. Okay, so if we just give that a moment to dry, you can come in here and add dustiness around. Let me pull it over here. Oh, that was still a little wet. But you can add dustiness all around the letters. So if you want sort of the best of both worlds, you want it to look really vibrant, but you don't want to give up that dusty texture, there's nothing wrong with combining both in your projects. Okay, this is pretty much nice and dry here, so you can see I can rub that, it won't come off. That's the great thing. I mean, there are really no rules here. It's all about what looks good to you, and if you like the vibrancy and the permanency, by all means, you can add some things to make it a little more rustic, or just use it without any dust at all. It still looks nice. So this gets removed with a wet erase. So again, our damp cloth. And that erases right up. So then the final thing that I will show you, actually, wait, I forgot something really fun. So chalk ink markers, like I said, can be used on any non-porous surface, and this is something that really blew my mind when I was in Austin, and just the possibilities of granite countertops and windows and glass. So I have this beautiful vase here, and this was a gift from my friends at Stack Ceramics. You can look them up on Etsy. They make some beautiful things. So glazed ceramics, you can actually use a chalk ink marker on surfaces like this. And I just think that's the coolest thing ever. Guys, when I found that out, I literally wanted to letter every single mirror, anything in my house, but I did restrain myself. I'll just draw on vases instead. So let's take the pink. I can show you how that looks here on the surface. So it's a vase. Let's see how nice and beautifully vibrant it is. So when that dries, and you could even add more detail, I kind of just did one time around, but you can thicken the downstrokes. How cool is that? And it will not rub off that surface once it dries. I just think that opens up so many possibilities for using chalk ink markers. I love that. And like the others, when you want to change it, just wet cloth and it's gone. It'll erase right up. Oh, perfect for mason jars. Yes. How fun would that be just to letter on mason jars? On when we were at the Chalk Ink headquarters, they had a granite countertops, and they took the black and they wrote on the granite countertops to the different, they said, thank you for coming, all over the countertops. It was just so cool. So then the last thing that I wanted to talk about was just the white charcoal pencil. And again, this is just for very detailed work. But you can see it's like using a pencil. It is very, very thin and fine, great for those shadow lines. And this brand is General's Charcoal White. I believe I got it from Hobby Lobby. But I think that any brand of a white charcoal pencil will work really well for that. And it will not smudge as easily. It will smudge a little bit, but when you wipe it, it will definitely be left. So you do need to use a damp cloth to change that. So I hope you guys enjoyed the demonstration. Here, let me flip this back over. Okay. All right, so I hope that was really helpful to you guys. Oh, good. I'm so glad. Hope that gives you a lot of options to play with. And again, there are no rules. I mean, have fun, use different things. Nobody says you can't use a chalk marker and a piece of chalk together. So was there any other questions that I may have missed as I was drawing? I was trying to sort of peek over the top and answer some, but I probably missed some. So if there's anything else, oh, guys, you're so sweet. Thank you for the hearts. Thank you for the kind words. Oh, scope more. Yes, I need to make that a New Year's resolution. Awesome. Okay, well, if there was anything else, please catch up with me on Instagram. And like I said, all of the content, yes, Instagram is Valerie McKeehan. So follow me there, and I will be posting this content as a blog as well. So if there's something that you missed or wanted to come back to, it will be on the Lily and Val blog. Okay, last minute questions here. Lighting when taking pictures of your boards. I really don't do anything fancy, honestly. Chalkboards are so versatile. So as long as there's some natural lighting, then you should be good to go to take pictures of them. So, all right, thank you so much, guys. Thank you for joining, and I look forward to talking to you later. All right, bye.